Hey, hey, everyone. Welcome to this week's session of The Good, the Bad, and the Truth. It's your girl, Naya Angel, coming through with my co-host and homies for life, Mr. P-A-T-N-E, man. What's up, fellas?
What up? What
What's
up?
good? What's good out there, listeners? What's good? What's good?
Oh,
Yo,
man. Crucial topics this week, fellas. Crucial topics.
I agree. I agree. It's been a
Um,
minute though.
I concur.
Yes, yes. I'm super excited. I think these are definitely some hot button subjects in our community right now. And I look forward for us taking the opportunity to talk through all of them. But before we get started, our guy E-Man has a special PSA he wants to let out. So, sir, whenever you're ready, do your thing.
All right. Thank you so much again, Night Angel. Everyone, I'm starting to feel like my PSAs are getting so cool. Because I don't know. I feel like my best PSA was my Ben Affleck one, but that's just me. So my first PSA, I want to give a shout out to LeBron James for losing the first round of the NBA playoffs. All right. I'm giving you a good shout out.
Oh, Laura.
All right. I'm giving you a good shout out for
Yo,
losing the first round of the NBA playoff. It's very sad that you hurt a lot of people for not winning the first round, but I am congratulating
Mm.
you for losing in the first round, and you made a lot of people happy, mostly me. But I just want to give you
shots
that good shout
fired.
out, LeBrick James. Just
I
a really good shout
know.
out for that. All
Dude,
right.
he wasn't on the team by himself, okay? It's not
Well,
like,
well, well. He lost and whatnot and cried like a baby. So,
oh my gosh.
we got to
LeBron,
make
if you're
sure.
listening, we love you.
So this is what it's been a while. It's been like 2 weeks since we've been off the mic, but I was itching to make sure I get that out. But it's all right though. I still don't love you though, but hey, when we need to wipe babies, we gotta make sure we have their wipes and their bottles. So I'm still giving you that congratulations for not winning the first round of the playoff. And on second note, Mr. Money Floyd, who can't knock out a water bottle, Mayweather. I want to give you the applaud for
What?
fooling everyone that you put up a boxing match, which I found out it was an exhibition match and whatnot. I didn't watch the fight though, but it's very sad that Floyd didn't get knocked out. But I
He wasn't getting knocked out by
I,
no
I wish
damn
he
Logan
would, but
Paul.
it would have been told from everyone that he actually put up a good fight. I was
Oh
like,
my
well, look,
God, no, he
I
poised
would say,
himself.
well, of course, it was an exhibition match. He had to do nothing. It wasn't going to tarnish his record. Even if he got knocked out, his interviews wouldn't be like, well, it's not a real fight, so yay. But you know, well, he needs to go work on, probably hitting the gym more and like getting his life together and whatnot. Because I want an actual boxing match, like something that that's not an exhibition match, which you made a lot of people pay-per-view to watch you fight an exhibition match, which was really sad, by the way. Just saying, and whatnot. But on the other note and whatnot, Floyd, for E-Man to tell you how much he really loves you, I feel like you need to go get yourself a reading specialist. You know what? Because, and I'm not saying it's because, I feel like I'm being disrespectful. It's because I care about you to make sure you can read all your contracts rather than paying someone to read it for you, you know? Because I feel like that's a skill that you really need to work on, you know? So I'm not too sure if people have not, like, I'm not sure if Pacquiao hit you so hard enough you couldn't read. Maybe De La Hoya, I don't know. But this is something you need to work on, man. Just do it for everyone. Do it for the kids. Do it for everyone, Floyd. I want you to make sure, because I don't want no one to make fun of you because you can't read. So I feel like go get yourself a reading specialist, Floyd. Just do it for all of us and whatnot. I don't care how much money you make. You make a lot of money. That's cool. But make sure.
Please.
But if you know how to read, Floyd, everything will be better and whatnot. So I'm just letting you know that. Can we drop a
Okay.
disclaimer, please, before we go?
Okay, well, thank you for taking your time to get your stuff off your chest, sir. Here at The Good, the Bad, and the Truth, I just want to make clear for all our fans out there that we are definitely individuals and we have different perspectives, individual perspectives that are not representative of the good, the bad, and the truth as a whole. It is never our intention to purposely impose on anyone's lifestyle, and to each their own. With that said, stop hating on my guys, E-Man. Come on, sir. Stop hating on LeBron and,
I don't hate. I
and
congratulate.
Mayweather, our legends, bruh.
I don't hate. I just congratulate. That's all I do. That's all I do. Mm-hmm.
He literally just did the opposite of congratulate. He's so crazy. Okay, well, thank you, sir. We definitely got your message. So, to start us off this week, fellas, we are going to talk about Miss Teyana Taylor, my girl. I mean, I actually like Teyana Taylor from like Google Me Baby times, okay? Like, I just thought she was creative. You know, I like her creative spirit. But so recently, Miss Taylor was named by Maxim magazine the sexiest woman alive. And that has been controversial for a few different reasons. But to get into it, our official question of the day is, should Teyana Taylor, being the first Black woman named sexiest woman alive by Maxim, be considered white validation? So I'm going to go ahead and throw this to my guy, PAT. What say you, sir?
Yeah, so here we are in the year 2021, and we're hearing about the quote, the first Black woman to be named sexiest woman alive. Okay, so Miss Taylor has been given this
by Maxim, anyway.
Right, by Maxim, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, by Maxim. So Miss Taylor has been given this title by Maxim. Now, Maxim is one of the major white-owned magazines out there. The majority of their audience is men, especially men from ages 18 to 49. It's another one of those magazines that basically focuses on women, cars, sports, fitness, entertainment, drinking, etc. So this magazine finally decided to have a Black woman be the, quote, sexiest woman alive. Now, folks, this magazine started back in 1995. And all of a sudden, in 2021, they've discovered how sexy Black women truly are. I mean, look, this is in no way trying to throw shade or take anything away from Teyana Taylor. I mean, I think this is a good look for her. I'm glad to see that she was recognized. However, the realist in me sees that this is more white validation. Well, and when I talk white validation, I'm saying white validation in terms of some type of legitimacy being bestowed upon a Black person or persons by an established white entity. Now, the thing is, folks, Black women been sexy. Like, let's just put that out there. Black women been sexy. So yes. Black women don't need that validated by some magazine. Some of these magazines have spent decades making Eurocentric beauty the gold standard.
That's true.
Now, while there is beauty in women of all races, we need to know that Black women have always been beautiful. The Black woman is the original woman of the planet, so they've been beautiful. They've been sexy.
I agree.
However, growing up in a global system of racism, the Black woman has constantly been told that she is less than, constantly told that she doesn't match up to the white woman, constantly told that she isn't as desired as women of other races and ethnic groups. And all of this is precipitated and undergirded by a consistently massive media campaign to diminish Black women. So my thing is, when these white establishments finally decide to recognize a Black person, it further communicates this idea that Black people are in last place in society. Basically, what it sounds like is you're not official unless you are recognized by a major white company or institution. Quote unquote, the first Black woman to be the sexiest woman alive sounds good on the surface. But I mean, really, when you peel back the layers, you can still see racist machinations at work. We're talking about a magazine that started over 2 decades ago, placing a Black woman in the quote unquote sexiest woman alive slot. Now, I know people out there may ask me what the solution is. Well, the solution is simple. First and foremost, Black people, and in this case, Black women, need to embrace their beauty and the skin that they're in. And second, we should realize that we don't actually need white validation for some type of legitimacy. We can affirm that ourselves. And third, we need to have our own Black-owned companies and institutions that celebrate us unapologetically. That's pretty much my thoughts on the matter. But, you know, I mean, I'm sure you guys already know how I feel. But yeah, that's pretty much how I look at it. You know, it's just it's really just more white validation going on. And, you know, at the end of the day, we don't need that. Black men don't need that. Black women don't need that. So, yeah, it's a good look from a surface level. It's a good look for Miss Taylor. And I'm not trying to take anything away from her. It's a good look for her. And I understand that she's happy. I read the article. I read her response. That's cool. No shade. No shade at all. But we got to peel back the layers on this. You know, we just got to peel back the layers. That's just how I look at it.
That was very well said, sir. Very well said. And I definitely appreciate your feedback on that one. E-Man, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and go next.
No problem.
And I think for me, this is very simple. I don't have very many talking points on it because I think if you think about the specific question, which is, should Teyana Taylor, being the first Black woman named Sexiest Woman Alive by Maxim, be considered white validation? My answer is yes, but there are more levels to it. Yes, it is considered white validation because for the first time in all of these years that magazine has been out, and I'm sorry, I don't know that number for sure, for 2021 to be the first year that a Black woman is on the cover, as if there haven't been beautiful Black women all this time before, in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement and Breonna Taylor and etc. Yeah, it feels like you waited until it was a perfect climate to do it from that standpoint. But the other side of it for me is that there's nothing wrong with celebrating victories, because the point is that her being on the cover should not be the end all be all of the Black community. And we're just like, yes, we finally made it because she's on the cover. But there is nothing wrong with celebrating victories. I mean, I'm not saying we don't have to invite the CEO of Maxim to the cookout, right? Like, I'm not saying, oh my
Yes,
God, they
no cookout.
changed the face of, right.
No cookouts.
Oh my God, that I'm going to invite someone for any fucking thing drives me crazy. But, like, I'm not
Stop
saying,
it.
I'm not saying we have to invite the CEO of Maxim to the cookout. Not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is, regardless of whether it's Maxim or any other magazine, whenever a Black person is winning, it's a win. And for all of the years that we were oppressed and could not reach these wins, there's nothing wrong with celebrating that. And I think that Black people have this tendency to think the world is just white or Black, pun intended. And the reality of it is there's gray area. And that gray area for me is that there's nothing wrong with celebrating a win as opposed to becoming immersed in the struggle, because you can still be about making change, about recognizing the struggles that we do face and being the difference that you want to see, and celebrate the wins along the way. In fact, my theory is that the moment that you stop celebrating the wins, you become like the very oppressors themselves, which defeats the purpose. I mean, look at voting. Voting back in the day did not change systemic racism. We're still facing systemic racism today as we speak. But voting was something we could not do. We didn't have a voice in the past. Our concerns or our wants for our communities were not even a consideration. So even though voting didn't change the face of the struggles that we're still going through in today's days and time, to not celebrate the landmark is insane to me. So I think that as a community, we have to learn to come out of the black and white. Yes, there is black and white when it comes to whether something is racist or not. But at the same time, if it weren't for all of these little victories that we've achieved, who's to say that they weren't catalysts for the bigger ones? Who's to say that those little victories didn't inspire our Malcolm X's and etc. of the world? It's not enough to recognize the struggle without recognizing accomplishments. I'm not saying go crazy. I'm not saying we should throw a fucking parade for Maxim. But I'm saying, what's the harm in celebrating that accomplishment when 50 years ago there was not a Black woman there? We should not change our way of life because of it, but it's an accomplishment nonetheless. And those are my thoughts on it. E-Man, what say you, sir, to wrap us up on this?
Okay, so since I'm wrapping up, you know me, I always gotta go out with a bang. But so before I start saying anything, so I found out today is No Panties Day. So all those lucky goddesses,
Oh,
make sure, like I said, I've been trying to see if I ran for president, I told everyone my campaign would be no bras, no panties for 2021 and beyond. That is my goal. That will always be my goal. All I'm saying, just free up everything. So I just found out today was a very good, lucky day. So y'all go out there, no panties, and enjoy yourselves and whatnot.
Lord have mercy. Let me find out we got to do multiple disclaimers.
Now, I've never heard of this woman before. So that's just,
Teyana Taylor?
Yeah, I never heard of her before. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not, I tell people I am not social media movement wise. Like, I don't know everyone's name until like someone tells me like, yo, who's this person or that person? Like, I would need to follow many backstories on these people so I know who I'm talking about. But first things first, when it comes to the thing called validation, validation is always seek because, we always need an answer. We always need a yes or a no behind something so that, so we know that what we're doing is good and what we're doing is bad. So this magazine has been out since like 95. So it's been out for like, 2 decades, like PAT stated. And, this is like their first time putting, a Black woman on their cover. I'm like, if it took you 25 years to figure that one out, I mean, I don't know what else to say and whatnot. I mean, it seems like it's a general magazine, like anything, If we take it down to many magazines, we can even place Playboy. I mean, Jet was basically the Black magazine, but other different magazines, I can probably tell you that, they probably had, a Black woman on. I'm not doing it by research, but I'm just quoting to what I'm feeling that, towards that they probably done it before them, because I didn't really see it as a huge like issue, but it's just very sad. It's extremely sad. It really is. I blame not, I don't blame her and whatnot. I just felt that they were in a situation where she was pick and choosing to go out by this. Do I feel like it's a win? Somewhat, am I happy about it? It's okay, but just remember what I keep telling everyone. These are their institutions, So when we go do something from them, that means basically we're getting a seat at the table, So they're allowing us to come into their table,
Yep.
And because of that, we only get the breadcrumbs, like a little bits and pieces of it, And that's the thing that we need to understand, So Maxim's going to do what they want to do. They're not going to change what they're doing and whatnot, Just this young lady was basically selected to fit a mold so they can clear up their validation. So why? So that we won't have people like us saying, well, you're racist, you're discriminate, you're biased, you're this, you're that, you're feminist. You can take it all the way down to the list, because now in 2021, that's the big fight thing, because a few years ago, it was the whole Me Too movement and everything like that, and we're just going to like keep moving down the line with all this. So all I'm just saying is that, is it white validation? Well, of course it is, but it's going to keep getting worse if we got to keep counting small things being a part of their institutions, because remember, their institutions circulate their dollars, and majority of us help them out with that, For us to pull this off, we got to make sure we circulate our dollars so we don't have to depend on them,
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing, because Maxim's still going to be out there, because, Breonna Taylor was the first one. There's going to be another one, and another one, and that's what they're all going to do. Why? So they can keep people like us off their backs and whatnot. So the big argument, I can't say that, they're doing racial things and they're being discriminated. They'd be like, well, what are you talking about? Breonna Taylor was on like the cover of Maxim and whatnot. Doesn't that count? So now we're picking and choosing. So all I'm just saying is that these are the cool tricks that they have to play, just so that people like us don't have to, I wouldn't say don't have to say anything, but when we say anything, that's the backlash behind it, that we did anything. And because you can't say anything, you need to shut up. And that's what they use to make sure they put us in our place, per se, and that's all I'm going to say. I mean, I can go on and on about this, but Maxim is just as the same cycle, how Playboy played it as a magazine. You can name all different other magazines. They all done the same thing. It hasn't changed at all, So I mean, I don't think, and I would say this just to end my clear note, that no matter what we keep doing, no matter what we keep saying, there's always going to be a magazine or some type of institution that's going to do this, because now, we need to do something to save our asses, no matter what. And then none of them's going to change it, because they all use the same formula every day, every single day, and I'm going to just leave it as that. So.
All righty. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing. I think we definitely made some great points here, fella. Great points. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about Mr. Hunter Biden. For those of you who don't know, Hunter Biden is Joe Biden's son. And Hunter has been in the media recently because it surfaced that Hunter repeatedly used the N word in text. Okay. So this is definitely an interesting one. I'm going to actually go ahead and throw this to E-Man to start us off. What say you, sir?
All right, so now, man, I'm so glad I went first. I am so glad, you know. So first things first, nothing they do don't shock me no more, especially a dude like Hunter Biden. You know, you know, ain't he the same one that slept with like his sister-in-law and whatnot? Like wasn't that him? I believe it was him and
Oh,
whatnot.
that's a great question. I'm not
Because
sure.
I've been reading and following all the whole Hunter Biden thing. I've been actually following this dude for about since the whole pandemic hit and whatnot. And Hunter's been doing a whole lot of nasty, vile, and sick things and whatnot. And his little daddy over there keep hiding stuff from the media and whatnot and don't want to talk about it. But that's just me. But it don't shock me, you know. It don't shock me at all, you know. He like 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 everyone like let's put it like this. Remember when Lil Wayne made that song "Stunting Like My Daddy" and whatnot? Y'all remember that song? Because I think we were in high school, right? You know,
Yeah, I remember that song.
and so you
Yeah,
remember how that, you
absolutely.
know, and you remember how he was dancing and everything in the music video, you know, and he acted so hard and he kept, you know, repeating like "Stunting Like My Daddy." That's how I feel. What Hunter Biden's doing, you know, he's trying to start hard like his dad. He's trying to be a, you know, a big baller, you know, shot caller, you know, 20 in the Benz. You know, he trying to be, I'm big, I'm bold, I can do this, you know? And this is where we're at with this, you know? So it don't shock me what he does. It really don't, you know? You know? He is a discriminate person, you know, based upon all the stuff I read, you know, it's based upon what I've researched on him, you know, he's done some foul things. I mean, I found out how he got kicked out of the army and whatnot, you know, all with his crazy mental issues and whatnot, that his dad still hides, you know, hides from like the media per se. You know, there's a long list with I mean, I'm sorry, not Joe Biden, Hunter Biden. I apologize, but yeah, there's a huge long list, and you know, the apple don't fall far from the tree. It really doesn't. Like it really doesn't. You know,
Nope.
it really doesn't. I don't even think I need to even go over it. You know, like I really don't. Because if many people have been watching the media and been following Joe Biden and whatnot, and how long he's been in politics and whatnot, you know, who's done nothing and whatnot, you know, nothing at all, nothing at all, but cashing in and making money and whatnot. That's it, you know. And for him to, you know, his dad to, you know, I mean, for him to really say something in text doesn't, that just basically means, you know, he says it verbatim as a word. I really don't, it don't bother me when they call me the N word. It really doesn't, you know. That's one thing that don't, you know, because I already know how you stand. So I'd be like, it doesn't bother me at all, you know, because a lot of them say it in their own homes when, you know, when I'm not there. So it really doesn't bother me at all, you know. Just show your true colors when we got to deal with you on day-to-day basis, you know. And they don't do that. Everything has to be this whole hiding thing, so you can look prestigious and whatnot, you know. Hunter Biden, you're a sick man who needs help, you know, who needs to go see a therapist, because a lot of the stuff that I had to research for the past, say, 2 years on you is very sickening and vile. And you, my good sir, need help. And I'm gonna just leave it as that.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your feedback there. So, Mr. PAT, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and go second on this one.
Yeah, that's cool. Go ahead.
Similarly to, the first issue, this is really simplistic for me to the Teyana Taylor thing. The reality of it is, I'm not surprised. Furthermore, when I researched the topic, what was brought back to me was that he said the N word with GGA in those texts, not ER. So instead of saying nigger, he was saying nigga. And the context, and let me just clarify, because I haven't gotten to my point yet. I'm not excusing this behavior. I am, giving context for a reason. But according to what I've researched, he was sending those texts to a lawyer. And I haven't confirmed that the lawyer was offended or not. I can't confirm whether he was black or offended or not. He says, how much money do I owe you? Because nigga, you better not be charging me Hennessy rates. Is the text, right? Is one of the text.
Hold on, time out. I'm so sorry, Naeem. I'm so
yes. Right. The one of the texts was, this is literally one of the texts, which was, how much money do I owe you? Because nigga, Nigga, you better not be charging me Hennessy rate.
How do you know how much a bottle of Hennessy costs?
Well, so my thing is, this doesn't sound like, and I'm not saying that racism has a specific, manner or meaning. Obviously, it can be executed in many ways. But this sounds more to me like a white guy trying to be down with black culture and etc. than necessarily a racist who purposely hates black people. And I'm not saying that the second is not true. I don't know Hunter Biden. I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm not saying that it is true. But what I'm saying is, I am seldomly a person that looks at anything in parts. I look at everything, the big picture, the overall view. What I read from this is someone trying to perpetuate black culture. Maybe he has a lot of black friends and they're okay with him calling him nigga or whatever.
It might be drinking Hennessy.
Of this statement doesn't read to me, I hate black people, I want to see them die, or I want them out of the country. That's not what I read out of this. What I read out of this is someone trying to perpetuate black culture. And especially because every instance that I've read so far, it was nigger with the GGA, not nigger with an ER. And there is a difference. That term with the GGA is the way that black people use it as a sign of affection to other black people, right? And again, I'm not saying just because we use it, that means white people should use it too. Again, that's not my point. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying here is, looking at the whole picture, I think it's easy for people to overread this. I think for people who don't like Joe Biden or are not particularly a fan of Joe Biden, this is, oh, look, Joe Biden's son is racist. And I told you Joe Biden and his family was racist because Joe Biden signed that bill that was discriminatory against black people and etc. Okay, there are a few things associated with that. First of all, in regards to Joe Biden's son, parents guide their children to behave a certain way. And yes, people are a reflection of their environment. But ultimately, an adult making a decision to do something wrong or right is on the adult. Okay, that's still ultimately the adult's decision to know wrong from right, because otherwise you can make the argument it's not racist fault. They grew up racist. Their family raised them racist. No, they know wrong from right. They know being racist is wrong.
If he knew Sorry to cut you off now, Angel.
No, you're fine.
But if he knew what was right and do it right, he wouldn't have text basically, don't charge me those Hennessy rates and whatnot.
Right. No, I agree with you.
You know what I'm saying? If you knew what you typed was wrong, why would you do some shit like that? Like,
but my point is, and you're right, I agree with that. But my point is, I don't think he did the wrong thing because he was racist. I think he did the wrong thing because he's ignorant. Because if you're talking about these particular comments, there was nothing in unless he was mocking what a black guy would say, which we have no context to prove that. We can't. And in other words, my issue with this matter is that this is something that we really have no way of knowing whether he was truly just being severely racist and he was trying to mock the way he thinks black people talk, or whether he was perpetuating black culture, which is still not okay, but it is not the same thing as racism. And what I was getting at before is I think there's a little bit of both happening on both sides. I think for people that don't like Joe Biden, they're going to use this as a reason of, look, I told you Joe Biden was racist. His son said this, he did that, and he signed that act in the jail act.
Talking about the crime bill, 94.
Right.
94
yeah.
crime bill.
And I'm not saying that act wasn't bad. Again, I'm not getting into that point. And that's not the point of my comment. I'm not saying that act wasn't bad. But what I'm saying is this. The other side of it is people could be like, well, there's not enough context here, so he's innocent. I'm not saying that either. I'm saying this
we're playing that card.
One of those areas to me that is not black or white. It's gray. Either way, it was a bad look. Either way, it shouldn't have fucking happened. Like, let me be clear about that. I am not advocating on either side on this one. That's my point. My point is, this is not clear-cut racism, in my opinion, but it is also not clear-cut innocence. It's obviously, at the very minimum, inappropriate and unacceptable. But it does not necessarily directly translate to me that he was racist. I would have to see more than just these texts to make that decision.
Well, that's cool, but I still think he's a racist, an asshole, a discriminant, a bias, an asshole, an asshole, an asshole.
And you have every right, and I totally understand why, and you have every right to feel that way, and that makes sense, and that's why we have our podcast.
I agree.
We can talk it out, and so that pretty much is how I felt about that situation. We'll throw it to Mr. PAT to wrap us up. What say you, sir?
All right, so Naya, I love you, girl. I love you, but we definitely disagree on this one.
No worries.
This is because we agree on most things. I would say 9 out of 10 things we're in alignment. This one, we're out of alignment on this one in particular.
I can't stop laughing though.
But of course, that's what makes this podcast what it is. Just
absolutely.
Like you said, that's the beauty of the good, the bad, and the truth podcast.
Yes,
we are individuals and we have different opinions, and we do disagree at times. And we're not afraid to do that.
But I can't stop laughing.
The Hennessy rates shit, right?
It's the Hennessy rates.
Yeah. It is what it is. But I think he's a racist, just like his father. He's a racist, flat out. But so just to go into my points. So I won't go into the specifics because y'all already pretty much touched on some of the stuff, and also everyone has Google, so I don't really have to get into the text messages because I read quite a few articles on this, so I already know how things transpired, what was said. The nigga with the GGA instead of nigger with the GGER. So I know that there was that distinction there. you know, of course, everybody, you know, all you have to do is just type in Hunter Biden using the N-word and multiple articles will pop up. I just think it's funny how Biden supporters, the real heavy supporters, the real, you know, the ones who was really just stomping hard for Biden, you know, have been pretty silent on Hunter Biden saying the N-word. Now, my thing is, if one of Trump's sons did that, people would have went crazy. Like, people would have just flipped the fuck out.
I agree.
Like, if that was like Donald Trump Jr. or one of the other sons that did that, man, media would have been like all over that. So I just think it's, yeah, exactly. And I just think it's funny. I just think it's funny because I'm like, okay, that was Trump's son that did that. You know, y'all would have like just lit them the fuck up for that. But Hunter Biden, you know, people are kind of quiet. You know, I'm hearing some silence. Like, you know, I'm hearing crickets. So I just think that's funny. And, you know, I'm not upset in the least bit when it comes to this news, this so-called news. I mean, as for his use of the N-word, I mean, we all know the saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, which, I mean, E-Man, you stated already, and I agree with that 100%. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I mean, his father is a racist, and that's not my opinion either. I mean, Joe Biden has a long history and record of racism.
I agree.
So why would I expect anything other than that from his children? I mean, I don't. So this doesn't really, it doesn't surprise me. It just doesn't.
May I ask a quick question? So I think for me, one of the disconnects that I have with the Joe Biden being a racist thing is that, and racism wears very many different faces, but regardless of what face a racist may be wearing, I feel like there are certain actions that are blatant by racists. Yeah, so basically my question is, and I was alluding to the fact that, you know, it's very difficult for racists to hide their racism, right? I feel like, you know, that's generally what they're not trying to do. They're generally very proud people about their beliefs. And obviously someone in politics wouldn't be able to do that as easily. But my thing about Joe Biden being a blatant racism is that I haven't seen where it's so blatant. The 1994 Act, the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. Yes, I totally agree. It disproportionately incarcerated Black people. 100% agree that it did that. But to be convinced that every single person that voted for that act knew that it would, I don't know that to be the case. And my thing is, first of all, I am not a supporter. You all have heard me say this by now. I am not a supporter of any particular party, Democrat, Republican, Independent. No, I support individual actions, what individuals have done. Yes, Joe Budden was at, Joe Budden, geez Louise, not Budden. Joe Biden was at the helm of the Violent Crime and Control Act. He also was at the helm of raising our first Black vice president. And I'm not saying that should negate any previous behaviors.
She ain't Black.
But if people are not allowed to change, or that change is not going to be recognized, what's the point? What's the point of the movement? What's the point of the argument? What's the point of fighting for equality if you don't believe there's an actual opportunity that someone will make that change? What is even the point is my question. But so my official question to you, PAT, was just really quickly, could you tell me what acts of blatant racism you felt Joe Biden was guilty of?
Well, it's not necessarily about blatant racism, because the thing is, and I think we all look at racism, I think we have the same outlook and definition of racism, but I think there's variations. So for me,
agree.
I don't try to make distinctions between blatant and not blatant. To me, racism is just racism. You know, the covert aspect of it is just as bad as the overt aspect of it. And aside from the 94 crime bill, I mean, Biden was a segregationist back in the day.
That is true.
And he has made some comments, you know, that has shown that he is racist.
That is true.
He was
that
saying
he's still racist or was racist.
Both.
Well, I don't. Well, I guess we could say back in the day or whatever. And even if we go pretty much recently, because he was on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne, and he basically said if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. You know, he said something along those lines.
Oh no, he said it.
Right. He did say that, and that's racist. But you know, he's made comments in the past where, you know, he didn't want his kids, you know, going to school with black children because then it'll turn into some kind of racial jungle, something along those lines. And I mean, people
said that too.
Right. People could type that in, look that up, racial jungle, Joe Biden, and it'll come up. So for me, I don't see where he has actually changed. I mean, you know, the thing is, people grow, people, you know, I guess.
He don't grow. That's a difference.
Well, the thing is, people aren't like, you're not going to be the same person you were like 20 years ago. You're going to slightly, I guess, change or alter a little bit. But at the same time, some people stay who they are. And I mean, this man has been in politics for, you know, like 40, 50 something decades. You know, I'm not on
49 years to be exact.
Right. So, you know, I said 40, 50 some decades, 4 or 5 decades. Let me say that. Right. You know, he's been in politics for a while, and I mean, he's been pretty much anti-black throughout.
How do you weigh it then? Because I'm not invalidating any of the points that you just made about things he's done in the past. But what credibility does that give to anything he's done in the future? Is it negated because of any racist actions of the past? Because then I ask, what is the point? What is the point of trying to appeal to the humanity of a racist? Or maybe for you, that's not your point. Everyone has a different battle, right? Sometimes people's battles are not trying to appeal to the racist, even though for me, that doesn't make sense because they're the ones in charge. You're not going to see any change until they come out of charge.
Well, technically, they're not in charge. We have the majority. We just keep thinking these people are in charge and whatnot.
It means nothing until we act on it. It means nothing until we act on it. You're absolutely right. 1 million people at a Million Man March in Washington, D.C. had a huge impact. If those 1 million men decided to march on the Capitol and say, get rid of this Violent Crimes Act and etc., it would have definitely been heard. But the entire point is that we don't always recognize the power that we hold. And until we do, what is the problem with trying to sit at the table and work things out? Because my thing is, if you're going to harp on, and not saying that either one of you did it, I think both of you raised great points, definitely raised great points. But my thing is, it's exactly what cancel culture is today. If you elect to only focus on the actions that people have taken in the past, then you miss the opportunity to recognize when effort is actually being made. I mean, that's the point of the prison system in the first place. It's technically not supposed to be punishment. It's supposed to be rehabilitation.
Right.
That's what you kind of think it's supposed to be, but it's really not.
Right.
But that's my point.
Here's my thing though. So, okay, it's one thing if, you know, he did all X, Y, and Z in the past, you know, fine. You know, he had a bad past. But my thing is, what has he done presently or is going to do in the future to correct
nothing.
Because the thing is, he hasn't done anything.
Has it been a year yet?
Specifically for Black people. He's already given Asians a anti
he got 2 more
Asian
years.
hate crime bill. You know,
he's been in the office 2 years. You said, E-Man?
Yep, because when 2024 hits, when 2024 hits, that's the new election year. So yeah,
right. But how long has he been in office so far?
Not even a year though. Not
right. Exactly.
Getting close
it hasn't
to
been his first year yet, right?
Right. But so we have to go on what he's done so far.
Actually, it's been a year. It's been a year.
We can talk about what he might do or what we think, what we feel he might do. But the thing is, I personally don't operate in that. Like I go off what has been done in the real world, like right now. And he hasn't done anything for
He's
Black
fucked
people.
up everything, to be honest.
He hasn't done anything that you consider significant because
he's done
the
nothing.
Law.
He's done what?
He's done nothing.
He signed I've seen into June. He signed Juneteenth into law as a federal holiday.
Right.
That's actually a subject that we're going to talk about later.
But that's symbolic.
That's a joke.
Okay, so I'm talking about tangibles. That's what I'm like something tangible, not just symbolism. Because the Democrats, they'll do symbolism. They'll do
all day.
They'll do that all day. I guess what I'm saying is tangible, something that's tangible, that's specific, that will
reachable.
But isn't tangible a matter of opinion? What you consider tangible may be different from what someone else considers tangible. This is going off subject, and I'm not, debating. I'm not. I legitimately. I just want to make clear, Pat. I legitimately was honestly wondering because I don't follow Joe Biden. I don't follow any politician, as I was telling you all before. Too much. I literally don't give a shit about Democrat versus Republican versus independent. I care about individuals, and Joe Biden, even before he ran for president, was not someone that I followed. Even when he was vice president of Obama, I didn't really follow him. So I just wanted to clarify, I legitimately was just trying to understand where you were coming from, Pat. Just want to make that.
I understand it. I mean, of course, like somebody like me who's very critical of somebody like a Joe Biden. And let's just be real. The thing is, a lot of Black people, and we know them. A lot of Black people tend to vote Democrat. That's like their party.
Yes, I agree with that.
Anytime you criticize a Democratic politician or whoever, it's like you're already, as a Black person criticizing a Democratic leader, you're already on the outskirts.
Correct.
So of course, I know I'm going to be questioned on it. Like, what do you have against Joe Biden? Like, why don't you have the same, I guess, criticism of Trump? Well, the thing is, I did have criticism of Trump, but the thing is with the Republicans, Republicans are honest racists, and I can respect the honest racists because I know they're not doing shit for Black people. So I already I don't need to really be critical of them because it's like I already know what I'm getting with that. But it's like with Democrats, they lie to Black people. And that's the thing with white liberals. They
all politicians lie to Black people.
All of them, but Democrats. I think Democrats lie the most.
They do lie the most.
Will actually be honest.
They'll be honest.
They would just straight up lie, and they pretend to be Black people's friends. So that's where I'm like, all right, man, y'all got to get the fuck out of here.
Remember, Obama did the same thing too.
Right, Obama too, but but not to.
No, you good.
Not to go too much off a subject. I mean, to get back onto Hunter Biden, like I said, and I agree with you, E-Man. I mean, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I mean, I think we're both in agreement that Joe Biden is a racist, and so is his son Hunter Biden. And they've already shown that. It's just one of those things, and I gotta call it how I see it. If somebody does or says something racist, I'm gonna call it straight up the middle for what it is. I'm not upset, because the reality is that's just how these people are. So
I don't lose sleep over it.
Yeah, I don't lose sleep over it. Like for the people out there listening, PAT, don't lose sleep over none of this shit. Like, I mean, I already know what it is. So,
same.
My thing is, I also would blame Hunter Biden's, I guess, quote unquote, black friends who have made him comfortable with the use of the N-word.
Oh no.
Because
and see, that was my thing. I don't know any white person who uses nigga with the GGA that didn't have some kind of black influence. And that's why I'm concerned that this is being deemed a superbly racist act. I've known very many white people who grew up around black people and have quote unquote black mannerisms. And so for me, that's the thing that's bothering me about this situation, because you all know me. I call it how I see it. If something is racist, I call it racist. I have no problem not calling it. I mean, calling it that or not calling it that if it's not that. And my issue with this is that I cannot go either way on this to say, yes, he was blatantly racist, because I have not known any white people that uses nigga GGA and haven't had some kind of black influence that allowed the shit. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't know wrong for right, but when you allow them to perpetuate that stereotype, you had a responsibility as an individual to say, nah, bro, that's not cool. Whether you grew up with us or not, that's inappropriate. Don't do that. And because the context of every single one of these texts, because the question was specifically about these texts, and the context of every single one of these texts to me felt a lot more like perpetuating black culture inappropriately and unacceptably, let me make that clear, than blatant racism.
I don't know.
So here's my thing too. So I think that in and of itself is racist. I mean, we could, whether they're playing around or they're perpetuating, or they have black friends that I guess co-sign it or whatever the case may be. I think that is still some type of racism. It might not be like the outward, the NIGGER, aspect of it, but it's still what I would say is liberal racism, because it's still that white person, I guess, pretending to be a friend of black people or trying to ingratiate themselves into the culture. But, they're mocking. They're basically mocking, because that's what
basically there it goes. That's the word right there.
Yeah, but what they're not. What about white people who literally grew up in predominantly black neighborhoods? I actually, and I will admit that I'm getting personal with this one, only because I know someone growing up. She literally was the only white child in our neighborhood at the time that I met her, and she grew up. I mean, when I say grew up, I mean spent the night over several black people's houses, including mine, and etc. And while I'm not saying that just because she did that, that means that she should be given a pass, but it wasn't her choice to grow up there. That's where her parents could afford to live. She adapted to her environment. Now, I don't recall her ever using the word nigga. I don't recall that at all.
See, there you go.
At the same time, but just to clarify, at the same time, she had other mannerisms that would be considered like a black girl's. For instance, wearing weaves. And I'm not saying that is black girl only, but you all know that that's a stereotype of the black community, right? I should have to
and
say
lace
that.
fronts too,
wearing
just like
weaves and saying shit like, he ain't about shit, or just certain mannerisms that are really stereotypes that were put on to black women, but certain things about being around certain black women that she did pick up. And so my issue is, if he literally has friends who have allowed this, and the culture that he's been around was one as such that allowed this, there is some onus there on them. I'm not saying they're responsible for his actions. I'm just saying that it shouldn't be ignored, right? Because now we got to start getting into, black people are excused for any time they see a racist act and don't speak up against it. We can't have it both ways.
Well, no. We don't get excused for that. And that's why I blame black friends too.
Because I think there's definitely some influence here.
Right, and I did that. And I did that with Chet Hanks and the Michael Rappaports and all these other, these culture vultures. Yeah, I blame the black friends too who allow it, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was just about to go on because it hit me about our episode with Shannon Sharp, and all I can keep thinking about, I got black friends too and whatnot after this whole conversation and whatnot. So just asking, did your white friend say that? Every time be like, I got black friends too.
Well, we've all heard white people say like, "Hey,
yeah, that's just what came in my mouth."
Listen, I have corrected the shit out of somebody that said it in front of me. I didn't even really know the person. I was chilling with a homegirl, and it was one of her homeboys, and he was like, "Niggas be tripping," and I was like, "Whoa, cuz no, I don't do that." You know what I'm saying? That is not a term that is appropriate. And people have their different opinions about it, right? Why are you using terms that black people we own the term and we took it and made it a term of endearment. And I shut that shit. I was like, no, I'm not comfortable with that whatsoever. That's not gonna work for you. And he was like, okay, cool. And that was the end of it. He was like, no problem. I didn't mean to offend you. I apologize. And he did not say it again around me. And so I'm just saying there are sometimes people need to be educated. And if we expect to see change, we do need to educate. But that doesn't necessarily mean we own the responsibility of educating racists either, because we don't. Those fuckers know wrong from right.
Right. And
that's why, I just want to say something quick. No. Sorry to cut you off, PAT. But all I just wanted to say, basically, I can't give Hunter Biden a pass. You know the reason why? Because his daddy got money. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just for those there's a difference between, those who are not part of like that sector with the government versus those who are, wealthy and like, doing something different, Like Hunter Biden's around other kids who are going to do the same thing. So towards him, I blame it on his daddy because his daddy is what he is. So that's all I wanted to say. It's not going to change.
The way you're saying daddy is
his daddy.
Or his daddy. No,
I'm sorry. I need to light it up a little bit.
You're hilarious, bro. No, that's cold facts. I think, and fellas, again, I think everyone raised great points here. I do not want y'all to think like, oh shit, Naya's, purposely combative. I literally wanted to get, different opinions on this. This was definitely one where I wasn't sure that I agreed one way or another.
No, that's cool, and and it's okay for us to, I guess, have our different outlooks on it, because there was a time where I probably might have had more of your outlook, I guess, when I was a little bit younger, especially like in my early 20s, like late teens, early 20s, because the thing is, I have white friends, and I've had white friends who are like, they're like the cool white dudes,
Yeah, same with me.
There was one white dude, still a friend of mine. I remember when he had cornrows. He used to put cornrows in his hair.
I think I know who you're talking about.
We used to hang out. Like, we had a lot in common. He hung out with mostly black dudes, and it was all good. But the thing is, he never said the N-word. He never said nigger. Like, and I know a couple other white dudes like that too. Like, they was cool, and they just never said it because they just knew that there was that thin line. Like, okay, I can, we listen to rap music, and, I'm ingratiated into the hip hop culture and all this other stuff. And, most of my friends is black. I grew up with mostly black people. All right, cool. But I still can't cross that line of saying, hey, what's up, my nigga? And I've heard white dudes say that, and I've had to say, hey, nah, we don't say that. And my way of dealing with that also is I actually don't even say nigga in front of white people. Like, I just don't. Like, when I'm in front of my white friends, or just white people in general, I don't say it at all, because the thing is, when you say it, you make them you start to make them comfortable to say it. So when I speak in front of them, like that's not even a word in my vocabulary. And I mean, it's not really in my vocabulary like that anyway. I mean, I'll say it every now and again selectively. And you know, if I'm with my niggas, I'm with my niggas. Like if we gonna talk like that, we gonna rap. But
true that.
You know, when I'm with other people, whether it's white, Asian, what, like I don't say that because I already know once I start, you know, dropping that word, eventually they're going to get comfortable and they're going to start saying it and they're going to think it's okay. And my thing is not
Correct.
like when you're in front of me, that's not okay. You need
Correct.
The way you talk to white people, you need to talk to me in that same way. Like that's just how it is, you know? So I think that distinction could be made. And somebody like a Hunter Biden, he had this text conversation with another white person, you know, so I don't see how, you know, it's not like he was talking to like one of his black friends and, you know, they were just like, you know, kind of rolling with it with him where he was just like, oh, don't be charging me Hennessy rates, nigga. And then the black friend just be like, well, nah, nigga, I ain't gonna charge you no fucking Hennessy rates. Like, if it was like
right, and we're sure the lawyer was white.
Yes, the lawyer is white.
Hold on, time out. Now I can get to go in now. All right, here we go. I got a quick Jonas session. How in the hell does this butterface man come text another white dude, right, and say, yo, you got those Hennessy prices and whatnot? I'm like, yo, that I don't know. Like, it don't even make sense.
It doesn't. But let me just wrap it up because I know we've been on this subject for
right.
I'm trying not to go in.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it. But yeah, the lawyer he was talking to was a white dude. It was a white dude. So for him to even talk like that to another white man, to me that already shows his racism. Because I mean, he's already comfortable saying the word, and then he's saying it towards a white man. So now it's like this white man's hearing it. And I mean, you know, the white dude didn't say it back. He just kind of played along with it, I guess. At least that's what we get. At least that's what I got from the text messages. Because of course you can't really, you know, see people's demeanor and what, you know, how they're really reacting or whatever. Because the lawyer, for all I know, is probably like, this white boy is fucking crazy. Like,
yeah, that's why I'm wondering, like the context.
No, but hold on, let me and just to I guess wrap my whole point up on Hunter Biden is the thing is, I mean, going back to Joe Biden, I mean, he is Joe Biden's son, and we already touched on the apple not falling far from the tree. You know, Hunter Biden is the son of the same white man who, like I said before, told a black man, Charlemagne the God in this case, that if black people don't vote for him over Trump, then you ain't black. You know, so for me, for all the Biden supporters, and don't get me wrong, I have friends and family who voted for Biden because they saw him as a lesser of two evils. They don't necessarily like Joe Biden. You know, I'm gonna give y'all a pass. I'm gonna give y'all a little hall pass. You know, I ain't gonna really, you know, but there have been some black folks who've been stomping hard for Joe Biden. And honestly, I think these people are some straight up clowns. Straight up. Whoever's listening, who you're stomping for Joe Biden like that, and you know, you really support him and all, like, and you're out here calling him Uncle Joe and all this other stupid shit, you're a fucking clown. Straight up. Like, I'm gonna just say it straight up like that.
Stop it.
Right, stop it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to politics, you know, for me, it's pretty straightforward. Either I like your actions or I don't. Regardless of your party. I like your actions or I don't. I'm a person of action. I'm a person of accountability. Right. And so for me, I definitely agree with you. I think I agree with you to the extent that I think no one should ever, I'm going to say, put on a pedestal a politician. Ain't a fucking politician on this planet that deserves that. because they're human beings. Matter of fact, I don't think that human beings should put any human being on a pedestal to a certain degree. I'm not saying ignoring accomplishments. I mean, but, you know, idolizing another human being because they're flawed. That's the nature of being a human being. And there's nothing wrong with appreciating someone's work, but you should not put them above reproach ever. No one.
Right.
Any
Right.
politician. That's just
the
my
only thing I know that Joe Biden has accomplished, that he tripped on some stairs getting into Air Force One. That's his biggest accomplishment so far.
Lord have mercy.
So yeah. So Joe, you did it, man. You tripped and fell and you made it look good. So there you go. Congrats. E-Man's giving you that congratulations.
But
there you go.
But I'm sorry, Manaya, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
No, I'll just say, so to just go back to Hunter Biden real quick. I promise I'm wrapping this up. We went in for a minute with this one. But you know, I mean, you know, the folks out there with the so-called Uncle Joe bullshit, like, stop it. I'm gonna tell y'all, stop it. You know, with this Uncle Joe bullshit, like, stop it. Enough with that bullshit. You know. I think he is a racist, and Hunter Biden is a racist too. Remember, Hunter Biden is that man's son. So for me, it's not hard to connect the dots at all. Hunter Biden is just as racist as his father. So he would say the N-word freely. I mean, that's just standard OP for people like them. And I'll just end it off by saying that if anyone were to really look into who Hunter Biden is, it's obvious that this dude is a fucking basket case. This man used to be hooked on drugs to the point where he smoked Parmesan cheese one day.
What? That is true.
No,
that is true.
This is not a joke.
That's not even a joke. That is actually true.
This is not a joke. He smoked Parmesan cheese before. And I have
so many questions.
And we'll put the video, we'll put the link to the video in our description. We'll put that in there. But this motherfucker smoked Parmesan cheese before.
Yes,
I have so many questions.
So yeah, dude saying the N-word is no surprise to me at all.
That's what I said.
Not only is he a basket case, but he's a fucking degenerate.
I'm
gonna just end it off like that.
I agree. That's it. I agree. See, I didn't go into him so hard and whatnot because I wanted to make sure my man PAT Lee me, you know, he gets to say his say and whatnot. That's why I didn't go too hard.
He definitely did that. Yeah. I have so many questions about the Parmesan cheese thing, but we'll talk about that later.
It goes in more and whatnot. Yeah, there's a whole lot. But yeah.
Wow. Okay. That
will be in the description.
Insane. Right.
We dropping it down in the description.
So, moving on, fellas, we are going to talk about definitely a very pertinent subject to the Black community at this time. And just before we dive into here, folks, I want to go ahead and start us off because I'm going to give just a little bit of information for those of you who do not know. So we are getting ready to talk about critical race theory. And for those of you all who are not sure what critical race theory means, there is a definition by Professor Hosang from Yale University that says that critical race theory is a discipline, analytical tool, and approach that emerged in the 1970s and 80s. Scholars took up the ways racial inequity persisted even after a whole set of landmark civil rights laws and anti-discrimination laws were passed, and asked themselves, why is racism still enduring? And how do we contribute to abolishing it? So just to simplify that for the folks out there, well, first, what I'm going to do is state what our official question on the matter is so that you all have that context. Our official question is the pushback against critical race theory a way to continue to whitewash history? So answer to that question is yes. And the reason that I feel that way is because what essentially the issue has become is that the conversation about race and why systemic racism still exists today is now a topic that cannot be ignored. In the past, the white community had the benefit of not having to have certain conversations, right? Living in a box, living in a square, living in comfortability, worlds weren't disrupted. They could go on with their everyday life like, hey, Black people can vote now. The world's a better place, right? What I was talking about earlier. Yes, that is an accomplishment when certain rights were given to us, but it did not fix the overall hierarchy issue of systemic racism. And the critical race theory itself is about what is causing systemic racism to still persist, even though there have been all these laws and etc. that have come into place. And so when you open up that type of dialogue, you are now forcing uncomfortable conversations, right? You're forcing people to admit things that may not be in their comfort zone to admit. You're forcing people to recognize that, hey, racism is still a problem, despite a Black vice president woman, despite Black people being the vote, despite Juneteenth becoming a holiday. Systemic racism is still a problem. And so when you have this situation, you push a narrative that makes certain people uncomfortable. And I think for that reason, people are looking at this like, oh, this is just a way to, make white people feel guilty for behaviors that happened in the past and etc. Instead of looking at the bigger picture that we're not going to actually progress to where we want to be until people realize that racism still exists, is still an issue and needs to be addressed. And that's what critical race theory, that's the entire premise of the theory, is to try to identify why it is continuing. So to our question, yes, pushing back against it is the way to whitewash history to a certain extent, because then you don't have to worry about adding certain narratives into the history book. But I would say the bigger issue is that it takes people out of a comfort zone that they're not willing or ready to come out of. And that is an individual issue just as much as systemic racism is everyone's issue. So those are my thoughts on it. I'm going to throw that to Mr. P.A.T. What say you, sir?
So there has been a lot of talk in the Matrix about critical race theory. I mean, the talk is still going on. All you hear is critical race theory, critical race theory, critical race theory. That's all we're hearing these days. I mean, I've been seeing it all over social media. It seems like it's a serious debate discussion right now. Basically, Republicans want it taken out of schools. Now, with this whole topic, critical race theory, or as some would call it, CRT, if we want to shorten it, I got more interested in it after watching some interviews on BNC, Black News Channel. Mark Lamont Hill had people come on to provide more insight into why they are against critical race theory. After watching a couple interviews, I wanted to read more about it myself. One article I came across is about Governor Greg Abbott in Texas, someone who wants to abolish critical race theory. According to the article from the Texas Tribune, and the link will be in the description, quote, he signed into law a bill last week that restricts how current events and America's history of racism can be taught in Texas. It's been commonly referred to as the, quote, critical racist theory bill, though the term critical race theory never appears in it, end quote. This same article gives a definition of critical race theory for those who don't know. Now, in a nutshell, I think this debate of whether or not it should be taught in schools is yet another distraction. It's a red herring. I think in general, America, more specifically, white America, is tired of dealing with race. They're tired of hearing about it. They're tired of talking about it. In regards to the topic being a distraction, it's another way to change the subject about reparations.
Sorry to cut you off, PAT. I'm gonna let you finish though, but I just want to say that, you know, if I don't want to use the word if, but you can't stop something if you keep making money off of it, you know?
Right, that's correct.
And this is, they can say how much tired. Yeah, they won't stop it because they're making money off it.
They make money, yeah.
So they can say how tired they are of it, but when you have the same people in this matrix that's making money off the same thing, they're not going to stop. It's called capitalism, and that's how the U.S. is run. So, but I'm gonna let you continue your point.
Right. Yep, that's true. Very true. So yeah, in regards to reparations has been a hot topic lately, and the powers that be have found a way to try to change the subject. This whole critical race theory debate is showing a lot of guilt and fragility out there in the matrix. From what I've read so far about CRT, it is not something made to make white people feel guilty. It's not about making white people feel guilty about things like slavery, racism, and being white. It's not even about any of that. It's about looking further into how racism has been embedded in legal systems and policies. At the end of the day, the people who are against it seem to not want to deal with the truth of racism. Let's just be real. These people do not want to deal with the truth of racism. They just want to continue to keep their face in the sand and have their children put their face in the sand along with them. They simply just don't want to deal with race. In terms of conversation and dialogue, they just don't want to deal with it. They want no parts of it.
Agreed. It's out of their comfort zone.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They don't want any challenges to whiteness. They don't want challenges to the status quo. They would prefer that the racial hierarchy persist and not have to have their kids learn about racism beyond a surface level. Learning more about racism in depth would actually challenge people to step outside of their comfort zone. And as we all know, and as stated already, most people don't like stepping out of their comfort zone. So that's really what all this is about. People just not wanting their the racial hierarchy to be challenged. You know, they don't want their position in life to be challenged. They don't want their power challenged. They don't want their privilege challenged. That's what's going on. They don't want whiteness to be challenged. So that's why this is a problem. And it's a big topic right now, as I've stated before, because it's just another distraction out there. Another red herring, like I said before. You know, it's another way to change the subject off of reparations for Black people, reparations for the descendants of American slaves. That's what all this is about. If we're gonna be real here, that's why there's this big debate and discussion about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just rest on that.
Very good point, sir. I think that definitely correlates to what I was saying about it brings people out of their comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? Which is the major issue. People don't want to leave their comfort zone because, as you so rightfully mentioned, it's going to change the power that they have, whether they choose to recognize it or not. Some of them pretend like they don't know they have it. And others know they have it and don't want to lose it. Either way, it is the reason for the pushback, and it is an example of the fact that people don't want to leave their comfort zones. They don't want to have difficult and tough conversations that they know they need to have because they won't be able any longer to use that excuse of ignorance. So definitely great stuff there, sir. E-Man, what say you, sir?
Man, first and foremost, before I continue with my thought, I had told Nia and PAT I wanted to go last on this, only because I want to add a big bang as I always do. So, first and foremost, I was a little bit confused about the whole critical race theories, because when I hear the word theory, it's a thought and an assumption. Only because everything that we tend to hear when we hear the word theory has to do with some type of experiment, And the reason why I say this, because when you create a theory, a thought, you put it into a place where I build a procedure, run a test, get my results, and I draw up a conclusion, which creates, a thought of an assumption of something that, we just experiment. So when I look at this, and it's it's not shocking, but it's silly. And the reason why I'm saying this, because people, like you all guys stated, people don't want to, step out their comfort zone. And that's definitely agreeable, But here comes the one thing that most of them tend to forget, Do you think that many people, not just because they don't step out their comfort zone, what about the uncomfortability about others around you? You don't think about that, So when I see this and I look at this, they're trying to figure out, well, it's not our fault. I was like, your government writes all your history. So they tell you what history is, When we go to school, and I'm an educator, when we go to school, you are told what is actual history until you go look it up yourself. History is everywhere. It doesn't matter. Just like yesterday was history, today and a few hours later, it's history, But many people are telling people what the information they're looking at is not real history. Why? Because they still want to keep validating scripted history, Excuse me. And if we're going to keep validating scripted history, then what are we going to keep getting? The same BS that's going on today,
Absolutely agree.
The same BS. It's not going to change whatsoever. The same at all. All we do is now we're pointing fingers. Well, this and that. Well, this person's wrong. This person's right. That's what we've been doing. And then you guys talk about like, we want this to stop. How are you going to stop something when we can't even talk about the actual history about something, Like, I think I saw one of the hearings and whatnot, and I think a junior senator was I think he was at his hearing, and I was just watching it. But it was just very interesting how the committee kept cutting them off towards certain things, that you guys keep trying to remove from the books. Like they keep talking about removing slavery. I'm just like, why do you want to remove something that you know that a group of people did that and joined it? You know,
Yes,
we don't. Yeah, and this is the thing. Nobody talks about how many slave trades there were. There were many slave trades. But here comes the one thing. Do you know, many people don't even know who started the slave trade, but I know who started the slave trade and whatnot. You know, the Arabs started the slave trade. And then afterwards, they started telling people, well, go do this and come join us and whatnot. You know, and that's how the Spaniards got into the slave trade. That's the reason why the UK got into the slave trade. Many people don't even know that and whatnot. But you know the only slave trade they talked about when we was in school? The Spanish slave trade with Christopher Columbus and whatnot. Mm-hmm. The same man who raped and murdered and incest women and whatnot. But then they flipped the day and called it National Indigenous Day. Do you know how sick and vile that is? You know, these are the things that they do to keep hiding history, you know? But when I go read and actually open up a book and find what history is, you telling me, no, that's not real, you know? No, you know? So you make me look crazy, you know? But then you don't want to have the actual conversation about this actually happened, you know? And I'm going to just end it on this note, you know? If we want to do better, we got to be better, you know? That's the goal every single day. That's what I wake up to every day, you know? I try to be a better person every day because I'm trying to do better, not just for myself, but others around me. So that, one, I'm not going to be ignorant anymore, you know? That I'm willing to teach people, but others have to teach themselves also too. That's the issue, you know? The art of everything has disappeared because once they hear the truth, you know? Does the truth hurt? Yes, it hurts. It hurts extremely bad. But it's better to hear the truth, to keep sitting down, still going through lies and keep arguing and complaining like, I'm tired of black people talking about race every single day, how they're being oppressed and all this. Like, oh, we can do this, we can do that, you know? If that's the case, why do I always have to watch a silly video about how something has to be disproportionate to someone who's black versus those who are white and whatnot? You know, I shouldn't be coming on the computer or on the internet to watch something like that. If we're saying this is fair versus what's not fair and whatnot, you know, because I tell everyone like this: if I go watch a video and you see a black realtor being very disrespectful to a white person, what do you think might happen? You know, you guys might uproar, yell, scream, and call him all types of names. You know, when the roles reverse, not much happened, but they want us to speak up on it. But then when we speak up on it, what happens? Well, you know what? You know, well, that didn't happen. Well, he should have done this versus that, you know. Now you're adding opinions, you know, to something that you feel like you don't see it, you know. So you pick and choose what you want to see. And we can keep going on and on about this whole race, like the whole critical race theory. But just remember, it's a theory. It's a thought and an assumption that you guys think, no matter what they do or think what they're going to say, that there's some type of end trail. You know, I've talked to a lot of people, even elders and whatnot. Even from them, they say history keeps repeating themselves. So they don't even see an end. So if they can't even see an end and they don't even know when it might end, you know, that's telling me I don't know what's going to end until what? Until somebody takes that stance and whatnot, you know? Because anybody can take that stance. Anybody can step up and whatnot. But here comes the thing. When someone steps up, everyone wants to shadow them and be like, nah, we're not going to be behind you and whatnot, you know? Because you guys enjoy your own comfortability and don't want nothing to change, or you don't even want to change yourself. So to me, it's always going to be silly because we all keep thinking about the what ifs, you know? But I always want to do better and be better. And I do that every single day. I can applaud people who's willing to do that. There's many out there who don't want to do that, you know? And this is where we're stuck at the place that we're stuck at right now. And it's never going to change until, we all demand the actual real history and real things that everyone needs to know so that everyone can be content with everything, And that's how I'm just going to end it from there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And great points there by both of you. I would like to just add one quick note, because this was actually a comment from Professor Hosang at Yale, who wrote the critical race theory explained, and he said, and this is a direct quote from the article. Hosang described critical race theory not as content or a set of beliefs, but rather an approach that encourages us to move past the superficial explanations that are given about equality and suffering,
right,
and to ask for new kinds of explanations.
Right.
That was a very critical text to me when I read this article. I think all of our points touched on that one way or another, but I think Professor Hosang wrapped that up very well.
Absolutely.
I agree. But
before fellas. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, before we move on to the next topic, all right? So I went out and, I got me an etymology dictionary. So I want to give everyone the actual origin of the word privilege, all right? So the word privilege, all right, it actually means grant and commission, all right? But into the sense to Old French and whatnot, that it means privilege, right, priority, and privilege. But when you put it in a Latin sense, it stands for law applying to one person or bills or a law in favor of or against an individual, all right? So when anybody hears that word privilege, all right, and I know the big one is the whole white privilege thing, the word means what it stands for itself. You know what? The only difference is when you create new phrases and when you add a new word to it, that is where we're at. So that's why I wanted to validate, what the professor said and everything, and this is, and basically it was best said, after, now Angel already said it already, but this is just proving the same point, just to make sure that what the professor said is actually, something we can hopefully, lead towards. So
absolutely. Yes, sir. Good stuff. Thank you. So moving on to the last subject of the session, let's talk about Juneteenth becoming a holiday and, what it really means. So if we look at our official question, which is Juneteenth Black progress or just more token symbolism? I think that there is absolutely some opportunity to discuss different viewpoints there. I'm going to go ahead and throw this to Mr. PAT to start us off. What say you, sir?
So to answer the question, well, I'll just say, first of all, before I really answer it, yes, it's good that Juneteenth is a national holiday now. That's a good thing. In all seriousness, it's a good thing that it's a federal holiday. Now that that's out of the way, let's just be real. Juneteenth is yet another symbolic gesture. It is another symbolic gesture by the system of white supremacy. I'm going to say it flat out like that. The system of white supremacy has mastered the art of deflection. Basically, it knows how to shift the goalposts. It will do anything to take the subject off of, drum roll, please. Sorry, bad drum roll. Reparations.
absolutely love that drum roll.
I didn't
It's
have
better
anything
than
to tap
mine.
on,
I think it's better than mine.
but yeah, I don't know if I can tap loud enough.
Google drum rolls.
But yeah, I'll have to get a sound bite for that.
I clap.
But yeah, but I appreciate y'all liking it. I thought it was a little corny, but anyway, it's another way to take the subject off of reparations. Juneteenth is like Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Basically, like, yeah, we assassinated Dr. King, but here's a holiday in his name so you Black people can stop crying about it.
Ooh.
So Juneteenth is, here you Black people go. Here's a holiday to acknowledge that you exist. Now, can you please get back to picking the cotton? That's pretty much how I see it. It's just more symbolism. I mean, and we've touched on this before, and I'm just gonna keep it 100, like I always do. The Democrats don't do shit for Black people. We know the Republicans don't do shit for Black people either, but at least they don't pretend. The Democrats.
Well, the Democrats are actually the Klan, though, but that's just me.
Well, yeah, that's true, and that's very true. Also, it was started by the Klan. We know the history of the Democrats. I don't want to go too much into that because that's like a whole nother subject right there.
A whole nother one.
But the Democrats will do specific things for other groups and completely ignore the needs of Black people. Now, I know people will hear this and they'll mention the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, which were obviously steps forward in a racially hostile landscape.
That wasn't actually set up for Black people, by the way, just
right,
to let everyone know.
It wasn't specific for Black people, but at the same time, it was I would say it was incremental progress for Black people. So I'm not going to knock those things. I'm not going to knock the Voting Rights Act. I'm not going to knock the Civil Rights Act because, I mean, those are steps forward, for lack of a better term or phrase. They're, steps forward incrementally anyway. However, what tangibles have Black people received since then? I mean, we've already established that systemic racism is still a problem for Black people. There are 5 things plaguing Black people in America. And yes, I know Dr. Umar mentioned these, but he told no lies. And I looked into these myself. But the 5 things are mass incarceration, miseducation, gentrification, lack of access to wealth, and police brutality. Joe Biden has signed a whole bunch of executive orders, and he signed a COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act bill into law not too long ago, something specifically for Asians. Black people still got nothing specific. Now, this doesn't surprise me because, at the end of the day, Kamala Harris, during her run for president, already told a Black woman to her face that she wouldn't do anything specific that benefits Black people.
She's not Black. That's the reason why.
Well, yeah, she's not. She's faux Black. I just call her faux Black. But
I don't know what she is.
She did not say those exact words. We just want to make sure
I don't know what she is, but I know she's a hoe, though.
What?
She a hoe.
She's. Oh Lord.
She is a hoe.
She is if memory serves me correctly, she is Indian from India, because people use the term Indian incorrectly to refer to Native Americans, and that is a separate ethnic group. She is Indian and African American, I believe.
Well, Jamaican. She's Indian and Jamaican.
Okay.
Her mom's side's Indian, Asian Indian, or East Indian, however we want to say it. And then her father is Jamaican. And to my knowledge, she herself was born in America. She was born in Oakland, California, I believe. But anyway, she
would have had to been in order to hold that office.
But I know she lived in Canada, But either way, she was born in America.
Yeah.
She was born in America.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, she came in as an Asian, Asian American, I believe, when she, really got into politics like that. And then all of a sudden, when she started running for president, she was black. She just became black. So she was running that little scam,
Correct.
which myself and, others caught on to. But just to go back to what I was saying about her briefly, she already told a black woman to her face that she wouldn't do anything specific that benefits black people. Now, the thing is, this is standard OP for the Democratic Party. They'll pander to black people, but actually do something specific that would benefit black people? Nah. They'll blow a saxophone. They'll bring rappers to the White House. They'll sing Al Green. They'll talk about hot sauce in their purse. They'll lie about listening to rappers before said rappers came out. And the list goes on. But to actually do something specific that would benefit black people, nah. They not about that life. I mean, Malcolm X already warned black people about the Democratic Party. These people do not give a shit about black people, but they know they need the black vote. So what they'll do is they'll pander to black people. Once they get that vote and they get into office, the Democrats just give black people their ass to kiss. It's part of the benign neglect, which was started by President Nixon. Anybody who wants to look up benign neglect, go ahead, type that in. Benign neglect, President Nixon, and y'all will get the rest. Of course, these are all things that we can go into more depth about, but for the sake of time and to focus more on Juneteenth, the fact is, it is symbolism, plain and simple. Yes, we all should celebrate Juneteenth. And the fact that it's a holiday isn't bad in and of itself, but it's the fact that the Democrats will use this for cover. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if they're questioned on what they did for black people, they will just point right to making Juneteenth a federal holiday.
Yep.
They're gonna be like, well, we made Juneteenth a holiday for you guys. I mean, what are you complaining about? It's pretty much gonna be that. So in reality, it will be another holiday that actually benefits the masses. It will be a holiday where everyone, black, white, Latino, Asian, etc., will get a day off and holiday pay. No one really had a problem with Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday. Everyone really benefits from this. But to speak on no one really having a problem with Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday, of course, there were a few people who were against it. To speak on one of those few people, so in the New York Times article that I read about Juneteenth, it stated that some Republicans opposed the holiday. And one in particular stood out to me. It was Representative Matt Rosendale of Montana. He said in quote, measure was an effort by the left to make Americans feel bad and convince them that our country is evil. Now, honestly, after reading that, I really just had a good laugh because, all I could say to myself is, dude, get the fuck out of here. Seriously, get the fuck out of here. It really takes nothing for some of these folks to show their true colors and their fragility. So what I will say is that Juneteenth does need to be celebrated, obviously. However, the truth is it became a federal holiday in order to give Black people a symbolic victory. We know it's about the emancipation of enslaved Africans in America, but it's yet another way to shift the goalposts, shifting the goalposts further and further away from paying descendants of American slaves what they're owed, reparations. And that's it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great stuff there. So, E-Man, I'm going to go ahead and throw it to you. What say you, sir?
Okay, so before I start and everything like that, before I get very real in the topic, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to strippers because they're not hoes, by the way, and whatnot. They're actually entertainers because they make their money. So just letting them know, because there's only one hoe I know, and that's Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. Just saying, but
oh my Lord!
Hey, hoes make money too.
On this
yeah, like I said, we're not saving these hoes. Like I've already said this already. My movement is we're not saving hoes.
Money too.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, I don't respect hoes who make money, but I respect the strippers because they're entertainers and they're not hoes. But like I said, we can't be saving these hoes. Like Project Pack said, don't save her because she don't want to be saved. But now let's get into it. First and foremost, I'm gonna just say fuck Juneteenth. All right, I'm just putting it out there. Yeah, yeah. Nah, bruh, nah.
This gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So I'm telling everybody, you better buckle up because E-Man is coming in. So first things first, right? Out of everything you can do, this is what you came up with, it's more the sense. It's like fool me once, shame on me, and then fool me twice, shame on you. That's what I feel like, So we thought these fools were gonna do something. So it's like, you know what? We got you, that's what it was. We got you, and now everyone's like, you know what? This is what we're gonna do. We're going to make it not just a federal holiday. We'll make it a 3-day weekend. Ooh. And guess what? Juneteenth fell on what was it? July, June 18th? That was it, right? That was the date, right? June 19th. Guess what? What was June 20th? Father's Day. It's very interesting how you have Juneteenth following up. The next day, it's Father's Day. It's very interesting how that all came about. It's very interesting. Now, we talk about slavery. Everyone talks about it, right? Now, Juneteenth is a big joke to me. It will always be a big joke to me. When I heard about this whole Juneteenth thing and talking about, it's about the whole Emancipation and Proclamation towards, how it ended slavery. Slavery never ended. They just changed the form of slavery. That's all they did. Slavery comes in all different forms. People. This is what I feel like people keep thinking. People keep thinking that slavery is basically being shackled down, beat,
right,
and being seen, because many people don't know that modeling is a type of slavery and whatnot. If you remember how they showed us, pictures of, how they were selling Black people off to other like slave owners and whatnot. What do you think they were doing? Walking down on that ramp, going up and down, and you have someone telling them who they are. That was modeling. That is a form of slavery. It doesn't change. Even jail, prison is a form of slavery and whatnot. If you look at the laws and whatnot, do you know why it takes so long for many people to remove felonies off their record and whatnot? Because once you go in jail, you're a slave because you're doing some type of restitution and now you can make money off the same, like the private prisons they got going on where you can make money in jail. You make money in jail and whatnot, and then you can come back. They'll still give you money on top of that and whatnot. But because you're a slave, that's the reason why.
Yep, and the 13th Amendment has a loophole for that.
That does too.
Yep,
and I was just
back in the prison system.
And that's what it is. It's the 13th and the 14th Amendment, you know? You know? See, they use what they call policies, which are laws. You see, this is what these lawmakers do. They use these things so they can feel like they're not in control, that they have power, and they fool all of us, you know? So I'm supposed to sit here and be like, whoa, it's Juneteenth. I'm almost like, yeah. You know, if someone tells me happy Juneteenth, I would sit here and feel disgusted and whatnot. They're selling shirts that say free-ish and whatnot. You know? What kind of, if I was free, then the shirt should say free, not free-ish. Do you know what the word ish means? I-S-H? It means somewhat, little, not much, and whatnot. Then you're putting the word free that's supposed to stand for freedom. So I'm somewhat free, but I'm not really free. So why are you confusing me if you're telling me that I'm supposed to be free, but yet I'm not really free? You know, make this shit make sense. It doesn't make sense at all and whatnot. It really doesn't. So this is another form of symbolism, just like they did with MLK and whatnot. And there's certain states that don't even celebrate MLK Day, you know? And that's a battle itself, you know? Nobody even celebrates Malcolm X Day at all. There's certain states that do, but many don't and whatnot, you know? Huh? So I'm supposed to be happy that you give us Juneteenth and you give me that you give me a day off. Well, guess what? Many people got a day off because it's a federal holiday. So it means federal workers got a day off. That don't mean everyone else got a day off. Just federal workers and whatnot. You see, this is the tricks that they play and whatnot, you know, because it's not going to fucking change, you know. What else is going to come up? They're going to come up with another holiday that they don't tell us about and whatnot. Then boom, then we got to be happy about it and whatnot. And just what PAT said, you know, that this is going to use their ammo to be like, you know what, we didn't give you this, but we gave you Juneteenth. You give me a holiday that's what's supposed to make me happy.
Right. Like, what are you complaining about? We gave you guys a holiday, you know.
A holiday. You know what I'm saying? This is what we're talking about, you know? A holiday and whatnot, you know? When the whole Asian hate thing was going on, man, people were losing their minds. Losing it completely, you know?
And real quick, speaking of Asians, they didn't demand a holiday.
And they did. That's what I'm saying.
They actually got a bill for them.
They got the bill. They didn't have to say anything.
They actually got something specifically for them to protect them. They didn't ask for no damn holiday. I just want to put that out there.
Thank you. They didn't even ask for a holiday. They sat here and got something without even saying anything. So now I'm gonna have to drop the real bombshell to everyone out here on the air. So now, based upon, you know, I would say in the etymology or in the sense of, like, you know, the aboriginals towards what goes on with the government. So supposedly, you know, based upon my research and other research and double checking everything, you know, based upon everything, African Americans are not considered as people, you know, of the U.S. and whatnot, you know, supposedly. That's why it seems like we can't get anything, because we're not classified as that, you know, at all and whatnot, you know. But supposedly white people are, they're actually a human so-called race. Native Americans are, Asians are, Pacific Islanders, I think that's what they call it. Hispanic and also Spanish people. They consider them as people based upon law and, you know, in the law of the jurisdiction. But supposedly we're not. We're considered as what they say we are, which are slaves. That's the reason why when we look at Juneteenth, you know, the shirts say free-ish and not free and whatnot. But you're telling me this ended slavery, but how and whatnot? You see, when you start asking those questions, how, then would you get your answer? No, you know. Now they want me to be happy because we gave you something, but yet you're still going to use capitalism to make money off of it, to feel like you've done something for me, yet you have done nothing but keep stealing every single day.
Oh yeah,
And
a lot of these. My bad, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you good, man.
A lot of these corporations are gonna be making some money off of Juneteenth. Just y'all watch in the future going forward. Yeah, a lot of companies just gonna be selling all kinds of Juneteenth items. All kinds of merchandise. And yeah, guess where this money's gonna go? They ain't going to black people like that.
No, because I said that earlier in one of the segments that basically, they have their money circulating, regardless. So now they're using a federal, supposedly a holiday that they created, and telling us like, yeah, it's cool. Now Walmart, Target, and the same motherfuckers are now about to go sell so much merchandise. Now we're buying and wearing it, but yet their dollars are being circulated to them, but not us and whatnot. So how are we winning behind this? We're technically not winning behind this. That's the reason why I always say fuck holidays, because it's getting to the point that it's sickening. Like it really is. And when I mean sickening, it boils down to my stomach, because it seems like everything is based so much on capitalism, every single one of them, and it doesn't get any better from this, because to sit here and tell me that we're doing this based off the Emancipational Proclamation, that was the point of ending slavery. I was like, what deranged person would do something like this? To really say that, to say that, it's the same thing that you're whitewashing the same history books that you keep putting out in your public school, and you keep selling fake history. Like, it's sickening, I can keep going on, but the more I keep talking about it, just keeps bothering me in my soul and my heart. Like, it's really sickening and whatnot. And to me and all my listeners out there, it doesn't matter, if you're black, doesn't matter if you're white, doesn't matter, Asian or whatever you are, doesn't matter and whatnot. I would love everyone to put a stop to Juneteenth and get this removed. That is how I'm feeling about Juneteenth. I really want it removed because it's very sickening. I'm gonna show you how crazy it was, right? When my father, heard about this whole Juneteenth, do you know what he told me right after when I got up, when me and him had a conversation? He told me that Black Americans don't know what they want, that you just got a holiday, And I'm like, I told my dad, that's true, Out of all the things that we can fight for and do it together, and we can keep trying to get towards something, we got a fucking holiday and whatnot. Like, are you serious? Like, a fucking holiday. Everyone went crazy and mad about the whole George Floyd thing, and about the other dude who was running in Georgia who got shot by those two white dudes and whatnot, And I saw people put so much into it because we're all stuck in the house and whatnot. Now everyone's out. Now everyone has their freedom to do what the hell they want. Now everybody is basically going back into that cheat mode and just feeling cool about this. I'm like, how? But this is the things that we have to deal with every day. It doesn't shock me at all. None everything I say and I talk about doesn't shock me at all. It just really bothers me to the core to how ignorant everything is. Like, I'll tell everyone like this. I saw a video on IG, all right, talking about Juneteenth. There was a bunch of like Black people out in the street, right? They're sitting there. Girls were twerking on the side of the bus. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not a bus. I'm sorry, an ambulance and whatnot.
Yeah, I saw that shit.
Yeah, an ambulance and whatnot. Yeah. And everybody, they dancing in the streets. Some are twerking and whatnot.
That is
I don't have a
hot culture right there.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I don't have an issue for twerking because it helps you release your chakras and it keeps your soul strong. But they do it in a very demonic way, and it's not supposed to be done that way. But yeah, and then someone got on top of the ambulance and whatnot and started. I was like, what kind of deranged shit is going on over here, you know? But here comes the thing, right? When I don't say anything about that, they'll be like, yeah, it seems like you guys allow that shit to happen. I'm like, I'm not there. So I can't validate what they're doing. They're making their own choices on their own free will to do that, you know? But that's the stuff we're going to start seeing now, you know? And then I have to fight and validate, you know, do I agree with this or do I disagree with this, you know? See, this is the silly shit we deal with every day. Like, I don't even know what else to say. I feel like Juneteenth needs to burn, and I'm gonna end it like that. It needs to burn, like, badly, you know? Put it in a bucket, let it drown until it dies. That's what Juneteenth needs to do. That's what it needs to do.
First, but now you said drown.
I need to choke it out. That's how I feel, man.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Well, great stuff. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up, fellas, and give my thoughts on this. So the official question is Juneteenth Black progress or just more token symbolism? I think you both put things pretty much very eloquently, and the answer is yes. It's symbolism. And I don't think that the intent of Juneteenth was to be the solution to all the ills that the Black people face. I don't think that was the intention of making Juneteenth a holiday.
I think this was the biggest L.
Well, I was.
Sorry to cut you off.
I feel like I don't feel like it was intended to be the end all be all of systemic racism. I just don't feel like that was the intention. However, at the same time, I do agree that it is basically, when it all boils down to gravy, just a form of token symbolism. Because as someone mentioned, yes, they made it a federal holiday. Okay, it's a federal holiday that everyone will get to partake in. So it's not like this is something like reparations, which is specific towards a certain community. Like, for instance, the reparations to Native Americans specifically benefited the Native American community. Reparations made to Asian Americans during World War II, after those containment camps and etc., were specifically allotted to the Asian community. They federalized this holiday, which is basically allotted to everyone. Everyone's going to get to benefit off of it. So I think it was Pat that raised that point earlier. Definitely agree with that. And in general, I see where you both are coming from. But for me, it boils down to one of those things also where there's no harm in celebrating any accomplishment. I'm not saying forget that they haven't fixed systemic racism. I'm not saying that. We shouldn't forget. We should not forget, because we are not close to where we should be for true equality. However, there's nothing wrong with celebrating wins along the way. Yes, it is a holiday that everyone will get to participate in. No, it was not an answer to reparations that Black people are definitely due. No, it did not change the systemic racism. But again, neither did voting. And that still doesn't make it any less of a landmark, important moment for us to recognize. It's important to recognize Juneteenth because we had relatives in some shape, fashion, or form that were slaves. If nothing else, it's an appreciation of the day that ended. It's a opportunity, if you do nothing else on that day, but to recognize that moment. I'm not saying go cheer for joy and go become the biggest Joe Biden supporter or anything like that just because Juneteenth is a holiday now. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is there's nothing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I would never support him. But
right,
continue.
Right. And to each their own. To each their own. That is absolutely, you're right. But I'm just saying that there is nothing wrong with celebrating wins. So to answer the question, yes, it's token symbolism. Look at when it came out. right? It came out after Black people started speaking out about the fact that they basically rushed to move this Asian hate crime, act, when Black people have been fighting for equality for hundreds of years. Right. But again, the Asian community is kind of looked at as the token minority, right? Or as the acceptable minority. And this is not stereotyping all of them. This is my opinion on how some people view them, right? They're the acceptable minority, or their mannerisms are such where I can deal with the inconvenience of being around them and etc. This is my thought on what racists think about them, or what people in power think about them. However, and to get back to the point, so do I think this is symbolism? Absolutely, because Black people started recently speaking up about the fact, how could y'all get this act, against racist hate crimes out so quickly, but it took all these many different years in order for Black people to even get some of the more simplistic equalities that they should have had? Well, I say that part of the answer are all of the strides that Black people made. Part of the answer, in my opinion, are the fact that, Black people didn't sit back and just let us continue to live in the same type of systemic racism today that we lived in 50 years ago. Yes, systemic racism is bad either way, but there is definitely a difference. There is justice being seen that was never seen before. There are so many cases. A 14-year-old boy who was executed for being accused of raping a white woman. That shit's not happening today. Emmett Till can't happen today, because Emmett Till represents all of the pure hatred that was streaming in that time, and the fact that it was allowed to be recognized when his killers were acquitted. Something like that happening today would make what happened at the Capitol when it was stormed look like fucking recess. I'm not saying that, Black people aren't already there with Breonna Taylor and etc. All of those cases are horrific, but none of them were as brutal as Emmett Till. They can't go back to that. We've made too much progress. They know better. It's similar to that comment. It's similar. Let me be clear. Anyone can do anything. The results of what will happen, or the consequences of what will happen as a result, is what I'm speaking to. Because it goes back to that saying, we are not our parents. That does not, or our older generations. That is not necessarily, anyway, when I use it, intended to speak disrespectfully on them. That's not the point of that. For me, the difference is there was a time where being timid was the safe way to be, and you had to worry about your livelihood if you weren't. Today, we have a little more freedom to be a little less timid. So what you saying is, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off. What you're saying is true, but here I'm ready to drop another bombshell and whatnot. What you're saying is all true. I'm not taking that away from you and whatnot. The reason why they had to make those changes, only because the simple fact is that people were actually fighting back.
Right. That's my point.
That's the reason why. Because this is the one thing. They can deal with a little chaos, but they can't deal with mayhem, because you can't control mayhem. You can't control it, They'll give you a little chaos, but they can't control mayhem. And when they know mayhem's about to strike, that's when they do not their job, but to play what you call the safe card, to make sure, we'll make sure we don't get mayhem, but we get a little bit of chaos. Why? Because that's what keeps everything keep moving and whatnot. So there's not going to be another Emmett Till anymore,
Right. But I think that's, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think that's my point to a certain extent. I think we agree to a certain extent, because yes, The point that I was getting at related to the Asian community aspect of it is that people say yes, but they were able to get a hate crime against Asians act out really quickly. Yes, and my point was there were a number of contributing factors to that, including how the Black community basically refused to stay down on certain things, and it gave them a glimpse of what minorities can do when we join together. And so that point alone speaks to more of why it's so important for minorities to see the benefit in standing unified. But that's a whole nother subject.
That's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject. But the point that I'm making, and I'm about to wrap things up here for us, fellas, is that in my opinion, there was overall, if you're asking the question, was Juneteenth Black progress or just more token symbolism? I would say overall it was more token symbolism, but there is nothing wrong with celebrating a victory, especially when it's one that commemorates such an important day or action in the history of the Black community, because it was that day truly that slavery was abolished. Not the day that the Emancipation Proclamation was written, but that actual day where they said, okay, at this point, it is against the law, release all your slaves. And there is nothing wrong with remembering that on that day. Now, doesn't mean we stop there. Doesn't mean we forget the struggle. Doesn't mean we don't continue on the path to equality. Absolutely not. It doesn't mean that. Of course it doesn't mean that. But it also is not the worst thing in the world to recognize it. It is token symbolism. They threw us the fucking holiday. They could have made this holiday a holiday anytime in the last however many years. And because recently Black people have been up in arms about how quickly they moved to create the Asian hate crime, I think they threw something at us to shut us up, as you two mentioned in a more eloquent manner. But it doesn't take away from the fact that every step is a step in itself. It's a step that it is no harm in recognizing. And those are just my thoughts on that matter.
Well, I'm going to just celebrate it. Like I said before, put it in a bucket, drown it, and choke it out. That's what I'm going to do.
Gotcha.
I will take, if I gotta pour as much gasoline in that bucket to burn it first and then put water to put it down and choke it, I would definitely do it. You know.
Okay. Yes, sir.
My last point and whatnot. So, you know, I remember we were saying, you know, towards, you know, how much voting, you know, didn't help out in the civil rights movement and everything, right?
No, I just want to clarify that wasn't my point, but
it wasn't your point. But when we talk about so much about, you know, everything that happened in, you know, in the civil rights movement, and, you know, even with like the whole Voting Act and whatnot, it's very crazy, because those 60s and 70s were by far the most craziest times, you know. Even when before, you know, we had our own communities and whatnot, you know, we had all our communities. The thing that they don't talk about is the massacres and who actually destroyed our communities and whatnot, you know. And there's one thing I tell everyone is, you can always put people in a melting pot, but you can always divide people by creating hate and whatnot, you know. Because when they started destroying all of our communities, you know, we had to fight to join with them and whatnot. And that's what started everything where we're at from today and whatnot. But nobody wants to talk about that. And I just wanted to end on that, you know, because every time I've heard a lot of people talk about Black Wall Street, and supposedly they you know, in Atlanta, they're building a whole Black Wall Street mall strip, basically, and whatnot. Nothing but Black restaurants and whatnot, you know? And just after, you know, everything that's going on towards what we talked about today, I just wanted to end on this, is that, you know, there's been a lot of damage that's happened over the years, you know, and we always had for ourselves until someone took it away from us. And that's been the whole damaging point till now, you know. So when and I'm just closing this off to tell people why I do not like Juneteenth and whatnot, you know, why I said what I said, you know, because if we had our own and we were fine, you know, we were great. But until they took something from us, you know, they knew they needed us and whatnot, you know, and that's the lightest word I can say. It's the most painful thing to keep reading every day, because when I search through history, I'm always finding small things about how great we were as not just people, how peaceful we are, but how great we were as people till now, you know. And just to end it off and say is that, you know, it's never going to get better unless we do it for ourselves again, you know. And I'm gonna just end it there. So
okay. Well, fellas, this was a great episode, I think. Thank you all so much for your opinions on these awesome subjects. As always, oh yeah, we definitely had some great dialogue today.
I think so too.
Tough topics. So great dialogue happened here as always, though, fellas. And to all our listeners out there, we just want to take the time to thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Y'all make E-Man the best every single day.
Yes, we thank you all for your love, your support. If you haven't already, please go on to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, share these videos. We definitely want to make sure that content stays flowing to you all. Please feel free to subscribe and share. Here at the Good, the Bad, the Truth podcast, we appreciate our listeners. We appreciate all of your support. As well, we have our resident rapper and web designer and man of many talents, Mr. PAT, as well as our fly guy and the ever athletic and nutritional E-Man, who are going to drop their contact information for you all to reach out to them. So PAT, go ahead and drop that info, sir.
thepatchannel.com. That's right. Go to thepatchannel.com. And like, subscribe, follow. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram,
all that,
YouTube. Yep, all that. So you know, go to thepatchannel.com and you know, go ahead and like and subscribe. And, show that love. Do all that. Yep.
Yes, sir. E-Man, drop that info there, sir.
Thank you. It is Woo Athletics 56. That is my IG. Woo WOO Athletics with an S 56. Currently, E-Man is actually getting ready for his grand opening. You know, all right. His grand opening. You know, of his personal training studio. You know. In August and whatnot.
That's dope.
Yeah. Grand opening because, you know, E-Man lost everything during the pain. So he had to rebuild back everything to get where he's at. So, yeah. So I got a whole lot.
Sir.
Thank you. So, you know, I should have my not just my one-page website, but I should have my appointment website hopefully ready by mid-July and whatnot. And I'm still taking on clients, but by August I will have my grand opening of Woo Athletics, and I'm definitely gonna blow it out this time from 2021 and beyond.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excellent. Congratulations. Great stuff there. That's an awesome comeback. Again, thank you so much to our listeners and supporters. We appreciate you. As always, we keeping it real here on the good, the bad, and the truth. And until next time, peace.
Peace.